Welcome to Faithfulcrum, a podcast in which Scott and Mark have conversations about faith, spirit, creativity, meaning, and almost anything else. We don't always agree, so you don't have to either. But we do agree that a good conversation sometimes makes a great song.
Hey, Scott.
Hey!
So I think we're kind of trying to pick up from like the previous episode, little bits of like to lead into the current ones.
Kind of like an echo.
Echo.
Yeah. Or
So,
delay.
yeah. So I think towards the end of the last episode, and they kind of begin to mix up in my mind, but I think we were talking about prayer. At least at one
we were.
point towards the
We
end.
did get into that, yeah.
Yeah, and I mentioned I don't do anything that looks to me like prayer. I can't think of a thing I do. I talk to myself all the time.
Yeah.
But I think I did that back in my praying days.
Yeah.
In my praying days, I prayed very much like one-sided conversationally to the deity that I thought I was talking to.
Right.
But none of that makes any sense to me now. All I can say is I can't picture myself doing that. Maybe in a foxhole, they say there are no foxhole atheists, but I'm not an atheist. That's not me.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe in a foxhole or, as I lay dying, right?
Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I talk with myself in an empty room. No folded hands, no borrowed tune. Used to say words up through the ceiling cracks. Now they fall right back. In my praying days I spoke alone to a voice I swore was on the phone. But now the line just hums and rings. Still I say things. There are no foxhole atheists, they say, but I ain't hiding, just walked away. If I'm dying, I'll say it plain. No echo owes me an amen. I still talk. Yeah, I still speak, but the sky don't answer, and I'm hardly free. I still speak, but the sky don't answer, and I'm hardly free.
But something occurred to me, something that's made a deep impression on me. You know my dad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Don. I am also Don. I mean, I'm Mark, but my first name is Don. And
Don Mark.
his first name was Jones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Jones Don.
Jones Don. J. Don.
Wow.
Right.
Oh, that's right. Well, I knew it was J. I didn't know what the J stood for.
The J stands for Jones, believe it or not. And so I don't know how that happened. That's a story for another person to tell, I guess, because I think it was a maiden name or something from his family. But so J. Don had one kid, that was me, and he gave that kid his name. But I'm adopted, you know that, right? And my parents adopted a whole bunch of kids, actually, 5 children out of a total of 8 were adopted in my family. We could talk about that stuff another time, but that's the family I grew up in. But for some reason, I don't know how, I never have asked, and the people who could tell me aren't really around anymore, I think. But my father has passed, and my mother died before that. And whatever. I will say this about being adopted. People go, the common question, and I think maybe some listener might be asking, do you ever look up your biological parents? I mean, my parents were biological; they weren't synthetic. But I always say no. I had a mother, and that's one mother is enough.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, my old man, when I was a kid, was an elder in our church.
Yeah, I remember.
And he had a faith I cannot claim to understand, really perfectly. He was not like me in some very fundamental way, but he made a huge impact on me as a person. Thought he was a very fair person, a very just person, and I kind of craved fairness as a kid. I kind of think the world should be more fair.
Yeah.
But one thing he had that I would like to acquire in a way, and I think I have a method of doing it, but he had a faith that whatever happened was God's will, and he was content with that. It didn't always work, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes he would be very anxious about money, I think, but he would say, and I felt the truth of his conviction, that, well, whatever it is, it's God's will, and so that's okay. That will be okay. It will be okay. Whatever happens will be okay because it's God's will.
Yeah.
That's an incredibly powerful adjustment, I can see how that mediates all kinds of unevenness in the world, in life. You know what I mean? Disappointment, for instance.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I guess I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot from a lot of people that I know that I'm still close to.
Yes.
That is how they assure themselves that everything's going to be okay.
Do you feel that they really kind of buy it?
Well, I don't know that. I don't know if it goes super deep. I do know, at least I assume, that they have to not think about it in the ways that I now think about it, which is,
yes.
If that's true, if for instance, this good thing happened to me because it was God's will,
right,
and then bad thing happened to me, I'm in that place where Job was at,
right,
where his friends are saying, this wouldn't happen to you if you hadn't done something to deserve it.
Right.
But more importantly to me, the other people around me, when I say, part of the reason I have a nice house and a good income is because I do what God wants me to do. What does that say to the people who don't have that? The people who, for no fault of their own, their children have died horribly, or their house has burned down, or things like that. And I can't. That's the reason I can't. It's not that statement does not give me any comfort. It makes me want to run the other way.
Yeah, I can hear that. I think it actually was working for him. I'm not saying, not always. He was anxious at times. And I will say he needed more courage than he possibly had. But I do think that he was open to whatever happened, including, it's not like a bunch of terrible things happened. None of his children died in his lifetime. They're all still alive, strangely. And and I don't think, his life was pretty easy. You're right about that. It was a continuous downward, I don't want to say spiral, but it was an off ramp from success, right?
Yeah.
I had a father named Don. Gave me a name I still wear. Gave me a sense of fair. Even when life wasn't. 5 kids borrowed, 3 by blood. Crowded table, complicated love. People ask me where I came from. I say, I never went looking for another face. One mother held end of grace. knock on ghosts. I was fed, I was held, I was close. He said, son, whatever comes will be okay. God's will wrap this worry away. I didn't inherit the belief, but I felt the relief.
I think when I was born, and long before I was born, my family was far more successful and wealthy in the ways of the world, to coin a phrase, far more successful than they were when I left home for the first time.
Well, I know he owned a...
Yes. So the bakery was a big deal. It had our family name on it, and it was a block. It was a city block.
Yeah.
The bakery total was a city block. It's not like a little bakery, on a corner. It was a giant building, and this is back in the days before preservatives. So
okay.
Yesterday's bread, yesterday's bread is going to be, a tenth of the price. I don't know what it was, but it's going to be, if today's bread is $1, it's going to be a nickel. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be much cheaper because it's going to be, you're going to have to, soak it in milk or something. So it had to go out every night or every, early in the morning, and it had to go on trucks all over to West Texas. I don't know where it all went to. I think in Oklahoma, maybe New Mexico. I will say, in my youth, I'd introduce myself to people, give them my full name, and they would say, "Any relation to the bakery?" And so, yeah. But yeah, by the time I left for college, our family fortunes had diminished. And I do think maybe my old man, he and I are not related, right? We share no genes. I'm as closely related to him as I am to you, as far as I know. But I am also congenitally optimistic. I can't help it. I was born to be optimistic. And I think maybe although he had his own melancholy, I think he was as well. So maybe it wasn't his belief, but I do think, and here's what it comes down to, I think if at every point, people who believe that everything happens for a reason, that there's a message in every event, right?
Yeah, right.
If you can really buy it, I think that if at every point you are asking, what am I supposed to learn from this? What am I supposed to gain from this? What is my advantage in this terrible situation? You are doing the job of living in a kind of admirable way. Does that make sense to you?
I understand what you're saying. I think here's my issue with that. Here's where it breaks down for me. If I decide to believe that everything happens for a reason, that there's a message in everything, that nothing is by chance, it's all under the control
of a plan.
of God, of the Creator.
Yep, it's a master plan.
Yeah. Then I can also read the nature of that Creator in the things that he or she does. And
he or she is fine.
It doesn't, he, she, or they do.
Yeah, okay. Whatever.
But I don't like that. Because
yeah,
I think for me, I prefer to think that a creator created something good and created creators who have the option to create good things, but also the option to create garbage. And we create garbage all the time. I mean, all you have to do is turn on the news and see all the garbage that people have created.
Well, yeah.
And I feel like and maybe I lean too heavily on that free will sort of deal, but I feel like that makes me feel better about, if I'm going to see the Creator in that way, better about my own nature and about my own capacity to work against that nature, because I definitely think I don't live up to my, quote, better angels all the time. I fail quite often and do things that I just later I say I wish I hadn't done that in that way.
Yeah, oh man.
But to me, I don't know if I have my understanding of prayer at this point is so divorced from that
I'm a little bit off base of
petitioning.
prayer here. I'm just talking about this kind of belief
Well,
system.
let's stay with that then. I won't drag us back into prayer.
I don't know what I have asked myself what my father's prayer life might have been like. Did he have the same kind of like talking to this, and his imaginary friend that I had?
Yeah, yeah,
I don't think so. He was not like me. I have a
yeah,
powerful imagination. He didn't in that sense. Yeah.
yeah,
I have no idea what his prayer life was like. So let's just keep it with this kind of belief system about the meaning, what's the purpose of our suffering, et cetera.
yeah. Well, I think if I look at the natural environment, which I tend to look to
Yeah.
understand my own nature, I think it's cause and effect. I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't
Yes.
I don't
Yes, I think
necessarily
I'm with you there.
I don't necessarily think that it's karmic in any way other than the fact that
Yes, I
it's
have an
cause and
objection there
effect.
as well.
I mean, I feel like to go back to Jesus, do feel like I will reap what I sow, you know, and that's not because the
Not
universe
karma,
has
though.
that's not because the decided to punish me for being naughty. It's because when I sow crap, that's what I'm going to get, and it will catch up with me. Um, I firmly believe that, and that does give me hope. I'm going to go political. I've been confounded by some of the actions of our current president,
Oh, man, almost all of them,
and
right?
and yeah, and I don't understand how he manages to do things that would get anyone else
Yes.
kicked out and impeached and destroyed and
Yeah.
ridiculed and still be able to continue doing it. But there's a part of me that still feels like that's going to catch up with him. Maybe I'll get to see it. Maybe I won't. Maybe
Uh-huh.
he'll die of some natural cause before it
So
catches up
seems,
with him.
yes, absolutely certain.
But feel like it will catch up with him.
That I can't believe that for an instant. But I mean, it makes perfect sense that it would. I mean, how many people could get away with what? But this guy is unique.
Yeah.
Actually, I think what you're doing.
But I
you're
don't
kind of
think, I mean, that's another reason why I cannot believe that somehow, and there are plenty of people who believe this, that somehow he is God's tool.
Okay, yes. Well, let's just say we both agree that that's not the case.
I think he's a tool.
Yeah.
I don't think he's God's. I don't think.
No. Well, yeah. Look, God made him. If God made us all, then God made him.
Yeah, right. I do agree. I agree.
And God made Lucifer. I mean, really, let's just be honest, right? I think you're talking me out of what I was, where I was thinking, what I was going. Because I was thinking, okay, so I still have this. So I cannot convince myself that everything happens because God has a master plan. That is farce to me. But I thought maybe I could adopt some element of that because, okay, so I'm going to concept of eternal return. I don't know that I understand it. I'm not I don't really know Nietzsche well, his writings, but I've been fascinated by this concept. He seemed to be saying that imagine, he says, that maybe it's a thought experiment, that every action that you take and every event that befalls you, all of history is going to repeat again and again infinitely. And if that's the case, then what you have to say to that is, yes, I accept it. I will do this again. I will perform this act. Every act I perform, I should be willing to perform an infinite number of times to commit to a kind of hell. Nietzsche's not he's not a happy camper. But my acts, my actions, my reactions, and whatever befalls me, whatever happens to me, I have to say yes to it. There's something there. There's a power there. Now, it's also beyond me. I don't really know what my dad's faith was like in that sense, and I don't know what Nietzsche's saying here. But there's something that appears to me to be a kind of option, human option, is to say, I don't believe everything happens for a reason except the thing that happened just before. Cause and effect. Right.
Right.
But cause and effect is not linear. It's fractal. I drink a glass of water and somewhere 1,000 years from now, a a glacier melts because of that, but not just because of that, but it contributes to that.
That's the butterfly effect, isn't it?
The butterfly effect.
Yeah.
I have to believe that that's true, but it seems to me if I can ask in every moment, what is my growth potential? What is my advantage? That's another way to think of it. And I think actually you're talking about the President of the United States. I think he has a transactional idea of the universe, and at every point he's asking himself, how is this going to make me succeed?
Right.
I think that's incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
How is this going to make me succeed? How is this setback going to make me succeed? How am I going to succeed in spite of this, but not just in spite of it, but because of it?
And he's obviously really good at that.
Yep, he's doing something a kind of rapid fire, continuous, obsessive way, analyzing, maybe that's the wrong word, processing reality to his favor. And I think that might, I don't want to, when I say to my advantage, I don't mean over others.
Sure.
Does,
no,
right?
I understand that.
But if I could just ask, but I think you've kind of convinced me, maybe you're convincing me that this is not such a great idea.
Well,
your idea, go ahead.
Here's the other piece of that. I think there are things that are working to his advantage in certain ways.
Yes.
Perhaps economically, perhaps power-wise, things like that. I think there are plenty of things that are not working about his actions, that are not working in his way. I think his health is horrible. I think
let's leave this son of a bitch out of it.
Okay. Well, but I want to use this as an example, and I'm going to go back to nature.
Yes.
Think if I believe, and I do believe. I believe I have a nature that is similar to the nature I see around me. In other words, some bad things happen out there, but they all do fit together. Ultimately, I think, for the benefit of the other things. That's why a little bit of life became this diverse, amazing place. And
if you get eaten by a bear,
but if I get eaten by a bear, it's not because the bear is bad. The bear's doing what he does, and I got to feed him and his family, and poor me. But that's kind of how it works. But if I live against my nature, whether that is creating compounds and chemicals that were never meant to exist on this planet, that don't disappear, and they become a huge part of my body, or I worry that my amygdala that we've talked about before, instead of it triggering when that bear is coming after me, it's triggering all day long because I'm stressed at my workplace. It's triggering constantly. I'm constantly in fight, flight, or freeze, and my body's being flooded by the chemicals that are supposed to help me get away from the bear, but they're just flooding my body constantly.
It's not really a bear, it's your boss or whatever.
Right. All of that is ultimately not good for me, even if I've made it to the top of the corporate ladder. It's destroying my body. It's destroying probably my relationships with other people around me in certain ways. And so if we look at it purely the way the person we're not talking about would look at it, which is on an economic and power scale, that doesn't take any of that into account.
Let's come back to the bear here. So famously, the bear shits in the woods.
Right.
And you were saying, now, I don't want to make a parody of what you were saying, but you said earlier, this is where I began to see the error of my ways, my impression of what I could get out of this mindset that I'm trying to describe. You said, and I don't believe this, but I think you said, a good God created this universe, and it gave you the power to create and to create good or crap. Am I right? Is that the idea?
Let me clarify. Yes, but let me define good as things that are mutually beneficial to the other living things. Okay.
So
that's how I would define good.
Yeah. So you can create good or crap, but you can't. I mean, you can't choose because you're going to create a lot of crap.
Sure.
That's not your choice. You're going to create literal, physical, brown crap.
Right.
That's not your choice. That's God's choice. God decided that you can create a beautiful poem, but you must create shit.
Right.
But shit is good for the flies, right?
The shit's good. The shit's good for everything.
No. The shit that creates the flies. The flies spread disease. The point is, I think now I'm kind of convincing myself again because I don't care about that. I don't think that the creator of the universe is my friend like I used to when I was a young person. Well until I was way too old for this nonsense. I thought that the creator of the universe was my special friend, and he liked me and I liked him. And then I don't believe that now, and I stopped believing that, and it was very difficult, I will say. Very, very hard. Losing my religion, to coin a phrase by REM, was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I've done harder things since. But I think I remember writing, and I posted on a bulletin board at a place that I worked at, but it was like a copy shop. You remember when there were like places you could go to make Xeroxes?
Yeah.
That's a weird thought. It's like, when was the last time you saw a Xerox? I actually have one, not too far from my office. But yeah, they're far apart. Anyway, I posted on the bulletin board at this copy shop, "Dear God, I'm sorry about all the," I can't remember which order it was, but I said, "I'm sorry about all the terrible things I've said about you, and I forgive you for all the terrible things you've done to me." And that was a great moment for me. That was my divorce.
Yeah.
I had previously divorced my family.
Yeah.
My adopted family. I think being adopted allowed me to divorce from them in a way that other people really sadly can't.
Mm-hmm.
And I divorced God, and that felt like liberation. And I don't know what I think about. I don't know. My thoughts are mixed up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because my path where I'm at is, I think, different from you, but also the path that I took to get there was different.
Yes.
Because
I would say where we are now is not so far different,
right,
as the paths we took to get there. The paths we took to get there were quite different.
Right. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think we both, and in fact, I think you and our conversations early on helped me to take God very, very seriously.
Yeah.
So seriously that I could not take the theology of the church we grew up in seriously.
Yeah.
Because it didn't take itself seriously. It would say things that it didn't really believe. It would say things like, "We don't have a creed." Well, maybe you don't have it written down, but it's there, and you pull it out, and you beat people with it. They would say things like, no one can come between you and God. And that's not true, according to their activity. Because when I was finding God in certain ways, that was unacceptable.
Uh-huh.
And other things like that.
Can you be specific?
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. First of all, I was a minister, preacher, sometimes teacher a lot.
Yes, yes.
And camp director, and all of that.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But so I was teaching a Bible class series.
Was this in the camp?
No. This was after the camp.
This is church.
I was at church.
Yeah.
On Acts, the book in the Bible, Acts.
Yes, I know Acts. Yes.
Yeah, this is for our listeners who may not be as familiar.
It's not Acts. Right. I'm not teaching about Acts.
No, not axes. Not hatchets.
Not axes.
Anyhow, we were looking at how the church, the ecclesia, the Greek word,
ecclesia.
The church was gathering at the temple in this early church, and they were gathering and stuff. And so we were looking at that and talking about that.
They're Jews at this point.
Yeah, and there was this very, very, very adamant thing about the day of Pentecost, the Acts 2:38, which was repent and be baptized, and you shall receive the gift of the Holy Spirit, and all that were baptized were added to the church. And the bottom line was there's an in and out, and this is the in. This is the end. If you want to boil the Church of Christ doctrine down.
How many times have I wished I could do that?
If you want to boil it down, it's this.
Into a
You're
paste.
either in or out.
Yes.
And baptism is the in or out. And it's not just baptism, it's the how and the why and the when.
Okay.
So we're also looking at all these things in Acts where all these people, different people, get saved. And I had this little chart, and I said, look, let's look at all of these. Here's someone who got the Spirit, and then they went and got baptized. Here's someone who it happened this way, and here's someone that happened this way and that way and the other way. And I said, it happened all of these different ways. But we harp on this one Acts 2:38, and we say, this is exactly how it happens, and it only happens this way. And I said, that's not
baptism.
What we see.
We're talking about baptism.
Right. And then I said, when they say the church was getting together daily in the colonnade near the temple, okay?
Yes.
To hear people talking and all that, I said, it's calling those people who are gathering the church.
Yes.
I said, do they all hear, believe, repent, confess, be baptized? Is that what they're saying? They're saying all of those, or maybe some of them did that, but maybe there's like some interested people who want to hear some of that stuff.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They're like hearing some stuff, and they're kind of hanging out by one of the colonnades and kind of listening halfway, and then they come back the next day and they maybe listen a little more. I said, are we so sure that when they say the church, that they're not including the people in the center, but also the people that are way far out? And then I used the solar system as an example. I said, we would all agree. We would all agree.
Because science always fits well
of course it does.
in the dogma
but if you're talking about grouping, there's two ways to group. You can say, here's a boundary. You're either in it or you're out of it. Or you can say, here's a system, and here's the center that's causing everything to stay together.
Everything's orbiting. Everything's orbiting that system.
And so I said, are we certain? Are we certain enough to tell people, the guy who had been coming to our church, who knew all kinds of Bible, and he was a really good guy, and we would not let him do anything. We wouldn't let him serve communion. We wouldn't let him say a prayer. We wouldn't let him do anything because he was not a member. I said, are we so certain that being part of the church means inside the boundary as opposed to part of the system, that we are going to reject people and create tension and conflict?
What happened to you for saying this?
I got run out of town. I got run out of town.
Run out of town? What is it? On a plank?
I was run out of town. Yeah, I was. Well, see, I was. This is after.
Terrible.
It was after you can read about this in my book.
Oh, a plug.
A plug, yeah. Where the Growth Begins by Scott Simpson. Anyway, but here's the dual piece of that. So there's obviously a theological issue going on, okay? Yeah. Because I'm just saying, there's a lot of things that are, and I'm not even saying you need to believe what I'm saying. I was asking questions, and I was asking them persuasively, but I was just asking questions. And that was one thing. But the other thing was, once I asked the questions, then I was ejected, and it came with a men's meeting and a letter read by another minister who basically said, all the ministers in the region agree that you are heretical. And so
it's they used the word heretical?
Yeah, they did. And
fantastic. Wow. I've never been called heretical.
No, I'm a heretic. I'm a multi-state heretic.
But you have the look. You have much more the look.
I know. But he said it's either him or me. Uh-huh. And I was not about that. So I found a job teaching high school again in Grand Junction, Colorado, with another mutual friend of ours, Brad Thomas, who had a job there teaching in high school.
Right.
He said, hey, we're looking for an English teacher. So I went out there. We lived there for a year, but I left town. It was horrific. It was on the heels of all the ugly stuff that happened at the camp where I was a director and got fired.
Yeah.
And so, but the two pieces are the theological piece, which is a big reason I am where I'm at. But the other one is the relational piece. And that's if I could disagree with someone and still be in the same building, in the same community with them. If that's okay, if it's okay for us to see this differently and still be together, then that's fine. Well, but it wasn't. It wasn't.
I'm on your side because your sin was opening up the community and theirs was closing it down. So people go, oh, I hate intolerant people, and that's like supposed to be a joke. But you know what? Intolerant people should go straight to hell, right? That's not what I was going to say, but yes.
Yeah.
Right, because Jesus, right back to Jesus, right, is open to prostitutes and tax collectors, which is a weird thing for us to think about. But yes, but what he hates is those who he says will load you up with a bunch of burdens and then not lift a finger to help you. So that's
and make
Christianity.
Make you twice the son of Satan as they are.
Yeah, well, very, very good. Yes, I'd forgotten that. That's a great bit. Twice the son of Satan is something I'm going to have stitched on the back of my jean jacket.
It'd be good. That would be good, especially if you're on a motorcycle.
I'm never going to get on a motorcycle.
I asked a question on a sacred room. They sharpened chairs, they grabbed a broom. Said, son, you crossed the line this time. Truths don't rhyme with doctrine. In or out, black or white. Draw the circle good and tight. I said, maybe it's a system, not a gate, not a prelim. They read a letter, calm and slow. Called me heretical, told me go. Pack my boots, pack my doubt. That's how you'll get run out. Their love can't hold disagreement. And what the hell was it for? Your faith needs walls and borders. I don't need faith anymore.
So, I started out thinking that there's a kind of faith I could kind of get behind. And maybe I don't think that now, because I think saying, what can I gain from this knowledge, a bit of grace, a bit of understanding, treating everything as if it were a message to me from the universe, I think puts me in an exalted position. I think my job, 61? Is that right?
Yep.
Are we 61? Right.
We are.
My job now is to die and get out of the way, I think. I don't know about that. I will say this. Okay, so I've been healthy most of my life. I mean, I have allergies and I'm nearsighted, but I've had a robust physical health. I walk a lot, but just in the last bit, I've developed a problem with my knee. And it's painful and it feels unstable, and I'm walking around with a stick, with a cane, and lately I have had the impression, I walk around a lot in the evening at night, but I'm not walking as much as I used to. I mean, I'm not. Just this summer I walked a lot. Now I'm not. I'm getting this impression as I'm walking now that there's somebody behind me, maybe about 9 to 12 feet away, but they're pacing me and I'm walking pretty slow. And I look and they're not there. And I look over on the other shoulder, they're not there. And I realize that's death. If I can't get past this, if I'm going, I should say, I have an appointment with the doctor on Tuesday. It'd be nice if he said, I've only seen this doctor once before, incredibly impressed by him. And he's a sports medicine medical
good
specialist. osteopath. So if he says, oh yeah, you've just got inflammation is somehow settled in the knee, we can just give you an injection of a steroid and maybe that'll all go away. That would be so great. But I assume I'm going to have some kind of surgery on some ligament here in my knee. If I can't get past this, one way or the other, I am closer to death by a long shot than I have ever been. Because if you can't walk around, you are kind of there, you know? It's like death is closer to you, and particularly me as a walker. But I think in Buddhist terms, I think a Buddhist teacher or Buddhist thinker would say, well, yeah, I mean, I am 61. It's inevitable that I will get ill. I may just drop dead, but it's entirely likely that I will slowly get less able. And I may lose my mental faculties, although I have to say, so far, so good. And end up, in adult diapers, being cared for by others. And they may last for much longer than I'm happy to think about. But I have to recognize that is just the way. This is the universe I live in. I'm not exempt from these things, even though I have felt to be, partly, like I say, congenital optimism, but also my general health. I've always said that those were related. I've said that I'm a congenital optimist. I can't help it, but all it would probably take would be, esophageal cancer. to cure me of this kind of illusion.
Yeah.
But that esophageal cancer, that's right on the menu.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I have to be prepared for that in my mind. And I think now, well, how can I learn from this is not going to help me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I understand that.
Walk at night with a borrowed cane. Every step called out my name. I swear I hear another pace, counting my mistakes. I turn my head, nobody's there. Turn again, it's still there. But I know that rhythm well. It's the sound of time itself. I'm 61 and learning slow. Some doors don't swing, they close. If I stop walking, I stop being. That's the math I'm seeing. Me yet, I'm still placing bets, but I feel you're 12 feet behind, keeping time. keeping time. Keeping time. Keeping time.
Couple of things, I think. Going around and seeing everything and saying, well, that's part of the plan. That's part of the plan. This is God's will. Like I've said already, is not helpful to me. But I think what I aspire to and what I try to do, and I don't do it well, but it's to go around and all of those things that I see to say, that's a part of me. That's a part of me.
I like
That's
that.
a part of me. And it's really hard. I mean, it's especially with someone like the person we were talking about earlier. It's hard for me to see humanize him to the degree that I can say that's a part of me.
Yeah.
But I that's, if I was going to say what is my spirituality right now, that's probably it. But the other thing that I wanted to say in relation to what you were saying now about death 12 feet behind you, I mean, I feel the same thing. You and I are in a different place. I think you knew maybe that my grandfather, my mother's dad, lived to be 102.
Yes, I was aware of that. Amazing.
He lived the last, I don't know, 20, 25 years in a room at my parents' house.
Uh-huh.
And he was able to do that all the way through until literally the last couple of days before he passed, because he did need some attention right there at the end. And other than that, he lived with my parents. Now, I think you know this too. My parents live in this house that I'm living in. They live in a different part of it. They live in a different part of it. Yes, Cheryl and I cohabitate with my parents. They're in their 80s. They live in a different part of the house. There's plenty of separation for us to not feel like we're living on top of each other, but
yeah, that's nice.
They are here, and I see them almost every day.
That's great. I think that's great.
So, and you and I talked about this, I think, in an earlier thing, when this is how families work. My daughters,
this is how families should work. Yeah,
and my daughters, fortunately, they live in this area, and it's my understanding, although I would not put any requirements on them, but it's my understanding, because of this house that we live in, that's accommodating us, and because of this kind of thing that we have done in my family for a couple of generations now.
Yes, right. It's a tradition now.
I think they're going to come at some point and live with us.
Could be, yeah.
It could be. I would never hold them to that.
Yeah,
but it could be. And the other thing, and I'm not saying this. I'm saying this seriously, and I realize we're on a podcast. But I think that can go beyond. If you had that esophageal cancer and you needed to go somewhere, I would love for you to come here.
Well,
we could
that's
do this.
Beautiful.
We could. Well, no, and I'm serious, and I'm not just saying that.
I'm not trying to belittle it.
No, I know.
But it's very unlikely that I would do that.
I understand that. But you should know that there would be no shame in that, because
okay, I wouldn't be ashamed of it. Yeah.
No, but it would not be a weakness. It would be a normal thing, because I have seen you for the 50 years as a brother, you know?
Yeah. That's right. We're brothers.
And I know that you would do the same for me.
No,
if at all possible.
No, I can't. Okay. Well, I can't. I don't have the resources. I don't own a home. I don't also have a family that has a tradition of. I can't do it.
You could stick me in your closet. You could stick me in your closet.
I would, and then I would just close the door.
Oh man, our listeners are going to
are incredibly different. I mean,
they are.
I mean, I live alone, and when I'm followed by death in the streets, I can't come home to somebody and say, I think death was following me.
Right. No, and I think those differences impact our sense of God, our sense of the Creator.
It must be.
I think that has a sense of a piece of it.
Yeah, it must be.
But yeah, for me, I think trying to see that interconnectedness with everything, and I would be lying if I didn't say I didn't learn some of that. I think from the indigenous people that I've been able to
I can see that. I can
sit and learn from.
That's
a huge piece of who they are. They are not individuals. They are, but But first and foremost, they are part of something bigger.
Yes.
And those lines of relationship are not weirdly defined in the way that Western families quite often are,
Yeah.
There's elder told me one time, they make, and this is in the Lakota tradition,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
they make a relative called a hunka relative. They go through a hunka ceremony. And she told me that she learned when someone needs family and they do a hunka ceremony and you become a hunka sister to someone. If your hunka sister needs something and your blood sister needs something, your first responsibility is to your hunka sister.
Okay. All right.
And that
I didn't want to talk about adoption, but I am gonna now.
good.
So, because I was adopted, as we said at the beginning, and so were 5 of my siblings out of 8.
You were the first, though,
Nope.
right?
No. My
Oh,
sister,
okay.
my sister
Okay.
Peggy was adopted, and I again, I don't want to kind of get into the family dynamic. I
No,
just want
that's
to
okay.
observe. I am convinced. Number one, the argument or the question: nature versus nurture. It's nature by a landslide. The adopted children are different from the other children, and I was adopted within days of my birth. But I'm different from everybody else in my family. I remember being asked in West Texas when I was a kid, "Is everybody in your family like you?" And I would say, "None of them are like me. Not one of them is like me. I am unique in my family." I didn't say that necessarily, but I knew what they meant. So nature versus nurture, nature wins. And I don't, without going too far into it,
Yeah.
I want to say the children that were born to my parents are all still very tight
Yeah.
in the family. And the children that were adopted have scattered to the Oort cloud, to use your solar system.
Yeah.
If you know what the Oort cloud is, if you don't, I'm sorry for you. I love the Oort cloud, a giant shell of ice balls that produce the comets that we find. So that's the case. I mean, I did not experience the same sacrifice. And I will say this, I don't even blame anybody. I think there's a genetic imperative. If you share genes with somebody, you have a reason to support them, even if it costs you something of your own support, because they're passing down your genes.
So can I ask you a hard question, though?
I love a hard question.
Maybe it's not hard. I don't know.
I love a hard question.
Yeah. Well, is that really the case, or does that just make you feel better?
I think it's really the case.
Okay. And I'll just say, I know families in which that is not the case. I recognize it.
It must be true. It must be true.
I was not adopted. I
Yeah.
don't claim to know anything from the inside about that.
No, it must
and
be true.
I know that there are, but I also know families that are where no one is genetically related
Yes.
and they are tight.
Now, I think that might be easier because no one's genetically related. So the only bind is the bind of love. I will say this. I'm not trying to be critical of anybody. I felt loved as a child, but the sacrifices that were made for the biological children were of a greater magnitude than the sacrifices made for the adopted children. And that's true for my parents, and that's true for my siblings.
Yeah.
The siblings are still tight, and the adopted children have scattered, and that is the case.
Yeah.
And now that's just my experience. But I would say in any family where, and it could be like, for instance, you might have, let's just say, a man and a woman have a child and they also adopt a child, but the child they have, by nature, unfortunately succumbs to addiction, what I mean, becomes untrustworthy, and the child who they have by adoption supports them in their old age. I don't believe for a minute that that's not real. I think that happens all the time, but you're talking about exigencies that did not affect my family.
Right. I think there's one other really obvious difference, though, too. And a family of 8 children is not the same as a family of 2 children. No matter
No, that's
how
right.
many no matter how many are adopted and how many are
No, that's right. It
biological.
is quite different, I'm sure. Yeah.
And
I
I
only know
think
what it's like to have 8 brothers,
right.
7 brothers and sisters, right?
And my Cheryl's family has 5. She has 4 other siblings, which is not as big, but
That's a reasonable,
big.
manageable number.
Right.
It's a bit. It's a bit.
Right. But the dynamics are different in her
Yeah.
family than they are in mine.
Sure.
And I think a chunk of it is because my parents had 2 children, 2 sons, and that's it. And
Yeah.
I know we had 2 daughters, and at this point, I can't imagine, had I had more than that, I can't imagine splitting myself that much more.
I think that the idea is that you don't divide your love, you multiply it. But I don't know. It
I
does
think
seem that
that's
there is unlimited resource in
I
terms
think
of
that's
time.
I
Time is
think that's the
unlimited resource.
cliche. I
Yeah.
think that's the cliche, and it's
Yeah, it
nice.
is the
It's nice to
cliche.
aspire to. It's nice
Yeah,
to
no,
aspire to.
the thing is,
I
I
just
don't
think
think we should aspire to cliches.
no, yeah, and the reality is just simply remembering to stay in contact with everyone is just more
Wow.
difficult.
Wow. You really what you said there just triggered a memory from a recent dream. I think it must have been this week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the context. I just remember, I think it was me saying it, but I'm kind of like mad. I'm quoting my parents. Saying, Neil, stop, and stop, John, stop, Mark, stop it, Mark. And then Tennessee, stop it. Because I remember, this is in the dream. This just happened this week, I think. But I remember being called by the name of the dog.
Wow.
But
That's
they
great.
had 8 children and
Yeah.
a couple of dogs. So listen, I'm not judging them. I would be doing that too. But in my
Yeah.
dream, I'm like kind of mocking that. And
Mhm.
man, wow. Maybe because I thought about this topic.
It's interesting. Yeah. Um, yeah, but I think that's real. I think it's very real.
It is very real. Listen, anyone with a big family has been called by every name down the line. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
We got nowhere. We ended up
oh
nowhere.
no, I think this has
I
been
thought I was
wonderful.
going somewhere, but we didn't end up there.
Oh well, you've finished with telling a dream. I'll tell my dream from last night.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know that it connects with what we're talking about, but it
Whatever.
connects
Tell me your
with
dream.
where I'm at.
Yeah.
So I have a recurring stress dream, which is I'm lost and I'm wandering around. Usually I'm teaching and I'm in some huge, gigantic school building, and I can't find the office to ask them where my classroom is because I know my students are there waiting, and they're probably getting into all kinds of trouble, and I don't know where they're at, and I don't know what I'm teaching, and I feel
Yeah.
stupid.
I have some similar dreams, not quite like this, but yeah.
Well, and then that stress dream sometimes is me in a car out on the open road, and it's very similar. But last night it was different than ever before.
Okay.
I was on a bicycle.
Okay.
I was on a bicycle in a town that I don't recognize, and it was wintertime. And there were 2 young women who were on bicycles, and I was with them.
Okay.
And we were trying to either get away from something or to find something that we couldn't find. And
Right.
one of the women was very nervous, and so she was just buzzing off, just going and going and going. The other one was concerned about me, and she kept slowing down and looking back and saying, "We're over here, Scott. We're over here. Come on, this way." And I was having trouble.
You were lagging behind.
I was lagging behind. I was having trouble with my bike, and I couldn't get caught up. I stayed had them in sight, but I was trying to catch up. And the dream, frankly, ended there. I couldn't catch up with them. But when I woke up, sometimes I don't recall my dream, but I did.
Of course.
And so I was replaying it, and I realized that the woman who was looking back and saying, "Come on, you can catch up," was Renee Good. And I've been Renee Good, who was shot in Minneapolis.
Right.
And
Thank you. Right.
I've been thinking about her because I just wrote a song.
Yes, I've heard it.
I always do a tiny desk entry, and so I
Yes,
thought
I'm fascinated by that. Yeah.
she's been on my mind, and
Of
so
course. Yeah.
I wrote that anyway.
The
but
death of
I-
good.
Yeah, the death of good. But I hadn't been thinking about her a whole lot. Just feel like I just somehow, not to go back to that man we've been talking about, but I have to briefly. This seems like a mark in the sand. I can't get over a
Right.
law enforcement person shooting a woman at point blank range, an American citizen at point blank range 3 times, killing her, not allowing the doctor to come help her, and then our government saying it's okay. He did what he was supposed to do. That's
Yeah.
the way it goes.
I
And
gotta
we're
say,
not going to investigate it. This
say,
it's a line in
Scott,
the sand.
no, so you must know that some people are making a certain amount of hay out of the fact that she was in a lesbian relationship.
Sure, yeah.
Well, I have to say, I feel like what pushed this beyond your line in the sand is that she's a white woman.
I knew you were going to say that.
I knew
Um,
you knew.
And I think this goes back to nature and nurture. I have a huge empathy, and I felt angered by all the things that have been done to indigenous people,
Oh, no, I know you have. I know.
to Black people, but
But now it's personal.
now it's
She's
I
middle
guess, but
class. She's middle class. She has she has some kind of SUV.
yeah, I guess before I could somehow, it's not justifying it, but I could say they're just so
Right.
racist.
Well,
or
right. They're racist, right?
But-
Except that really that was never the issue. They were always just
They're
murdering
hateful.
thugs. They've always just been murdering thugs.
I know. And I don't know. It just seemed to me that if this can't even wake them up, then I don't
Yeah.
and I know how offensive that is. A lot of folks are, a lot of our Black American friends and indigenous American and Hispanic American friends are like, oh, come on, white people.
Yeah.
Are you surprised by this?
Now it's your turn.
And I agree 100%. It's just,
The problem
know.
is really this has happened to white people over and over again. It's the murdering thugs that are the problem.
yeah.
It's the policing recruitment of the dumbest, vilest, most violent, most ready to commit heinous crime into policing. Look, policing itself is a bad idea, right? It is. Like, I've got power over you and I can shoot you dead because of that power. That's a stupid idea. I mean, it's not, other countries
Yeah.
don't have police like this. I mean, it's
No.
not like it never happens in those countries, but I mean, in England forever, they weren't even armed, right? They're bobbies with their fucking sticks. Pardon my language.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so, I mean, now they are, but I mean, there's just so many different ways to police, and America has always been, look, America shooting each other. That's the national sport. I really can't really get upset about it anymore. Nobody has ever been upset about it enough to stop it. When
No.
it was our children, when it is our children, in the year 2021, 21, I sat in on a group of educators of young children who were talking about, they're trying to get kids interested in science. And so the children had come up with this study they wanted to do about like how to protect children from being shot.
Mm-hmm.
And all the adults were saying, well, how can we help them feel less afraid of this? This is in 2022, I think. How can we help them feel less afraid of this? And I said, isn't it true that the number one cause of death in children between 1 and 19 is guns? Is that not true?
Yeah.
Should we try to help them not be afraid of the number one thing most likely to kill them?
Yeah.
And they were like, is that right? And I said, I think so.
Yeah.
And then that time, it was the fact, I don't know what it is now, but the number one killer of children between 1 and 19 was guns, and children who we're trying to teach them how to do science and do studies and make sense of the world. They want to know, why are we being murdered by guns? And the adults want to say, well, how can we help them feel less afraid of guns? You know what? Not murdering them with guns would be a great start.
Yeah.
room floor where kids count exits and doors. Number one, where children die. A piece of metal, a lie. And the grown folks say, don't be afraid, like fears were made to grade. If this is order, keep it. If this is God, I don't see it. We didn't fail to understand. We failed to give a damn. I don't need heaven signed in blood. I need fewer guns and more love. If there's a plan, it ain't this. No, this ain't it. This ain't it.
Okay, so I thought I had a kind of hopeful thought, you know.
Well,
if I could just
not murdering
get
them with
myself in
guns.
the mindset that things are happening, and I can capitalize on them. I can get something out of them. And now here I am, just shouting about how we murder our children in this country with guns. Thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you.
just-
This has been a great journey for me.
Yeah. So what genre of music would you like?
Gee, man.
What fits?
Now I don't know.
What fits?
I still think it might be. This is what I had in mind at the beginning. I had two ideas before when I came into this, but now I don't know. What I'm going to describe as strident, masculine blues on piano.
That's nice.
When I think of that, I think of Waller.
Fats Waller.
Yep, and that's joyous. It can be joyous, but it is a black man in a time when being a musician, it gave him extra power that he wouldn't have had any other way.
Mm-hmm.
And he is incredible talent. It's the stridentness is a kind of cockiness or a he allows his euphoria to bubble up.
Yeah.
And it's just him and a piano, and maybe there's a little cocktail drum set.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I hear.
All right. That sounds great. Well, I know it hasn't been the sunniest episode, but it's been I think it's been an important one. I think I think it was genuine, and I think we talked about authenticity last time. I think when something's real, I'm happy to go with it where it goes.
I mean, really, me too. I mean, look, I mean, we're both artists, and we both have to do that. We have to follow the seam of reality, of meaning, of truth through the, we're just trying to process reality into the stuff that makes, that means something to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for following it with me.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
If you'd like to hear more conversations like this one and hear a few more songs, just subscribe to Faithfulcrum on your favorite podcast platform or go to faithfulcrum.com, where you'll find all of our first season episodes and every episode yet to come. This has been Faithfulcrum.
Disagreement, then what the hell was it for? If faith need walls and borders, I don't need faith anymore.